Here we go. Welcome back to the Zilosophy podcast. We got another special episode for you today. Today we got Coach Jeff Goldstein, who's become a good friend. Jeff is one of the best coaches in the country. He's in San Diego. Not saying that just because I'm biased. It's also true. We've become good friends. He's the first golf coach that ever reached out to me who read the book. He had played junior golf with Jason Gore. He saw that Gore posted about it on Instagram, bought the book, read it, reached out to me unsolicited, and that started some great conversations, a great friendship. He's bought tons of books from me for his events. You're going to hear all about his events. He's also used the book for his own well-being and his own mental health, and he'll talk about that. Some of his past experiences, as with most of us, have been difficult. He struggled with drinking many years ago. He's been sober for many years now, and so he'll talk about that stuff and our additional connections in San Diego too. He happens to know a couple guys that I grew up with in Watertown, Mass. Mikey G, Mike DeJopoulos, and Derek Danublia, aka Mikey G and Double D. Shout out to those guys. What's up, boys? They're with the RMD group in San Diego doing some great stuff with restaurants and nightclubs. So get out and support them and support your local small businesses because as you can see, I'm down here in Sarasota again, where I will be until winter and COVID are no longer a thing. In the north, things are crazy up there. Everybody's locked down. Praying for you, thinking of you guys, hoping you can keep your mental health okay during this time. Hopefully my book, and you've got some other things that you can use to do that. But speaking of small businesses, I want to give out a shout out to a couple of small businesses here in Sarasota that are near and dear to my heart. Zildjian Catering, which is run by my brother and sister-in-law, is here in Sarasota. They have delivery and touch-free delivery and pickup, curbside pickup. They're also doing, I helped them out do a ton of Thanksgiving dinners. They're doing Christmas and Hanukkah dinners for people that can't get out or can't get together with family but want to have a nice meal, all clean and prepared cleanly. You can check them out at zildjiancatering.com. Actually, a little breaking news that they don't even know yet. I just spoke to my mom, and she's talking about making her Italian cookies for them to add to their Christmas and Hanukkah menu. So, boom, there you go. And another business that's very near and dear to my heart here in Sarasota, Salt of the Earth. That is a natural wellness center that is owned and operated by my sister and brother-in-law. You can do salt therapy, ultraviolet light therapy. When there's stuff going on with COVID, keeping your lungs clean and healthy, keeping your immune system clean and healthy is really important. Salt therapy can do that for you. Ultraviolet therapy can do that for you. They have this amazing warm salt bed that you can lie on and literally feels like you're transported into another dimension. It's so relaxing. So check them out. They've also got tons of natural gifts for the holidays coming up. So if you can't shop, you can call them up and get some gifts from them. They sell them online, salt lamps and natural bracelets and all kinds of fun little things to do for Christmas. Also, both places, Salt of the Earth, which is at Sarasota.com, S-O-T-E, Sarasota.com, and Zildjian Catering both offer gift certificates, which are nice gifts for the holidays. But enough babbling about free advertisements. Let's get back to Jeff Goldstein and Goldstein Golf. I'm really excited about this. He's the one who turned me on to Pro Kids. If you heard those two podcasts that I've done and the work that I've done and the talks that I gave there years ago, it's all because of Jeff. I've been trying to get him on the podcast for 2 years now. He's finally ready, and I'm excited to have him here. So coming right up, Jeff Goldstein. Oh, by the way, you can check him out online at Goldstein Golf on Instagram. Or goldsteingolf.com. You can find him on LinkedIn under Jeff Goldstein. It's the old spelling of Jeff, Geoff. Goldstein on LinkedIn and Facebook. He's very active on social media, so you can hear more about what he's going to talk about now. Coming right up, with Jeff Goldstein of Goldstein Golf. So we're recording with Jeff Goldstein of Goldstein Golf, big Zilosophy on golf fan and supporter and close friend. I got to start with something really important before I forget. Mom says hi. I said hi to Karen on the way by when you were walking to the dining room. She wants
That's right.
to make sure that she thinks to tell you guys she thinks about you all the time. In fact, you are part of her daily prayer list. So,
Thank you, Mama Z, from both Karen and I, and we remember the Foxwoods experience very well, from the steakhouse to the autograph signing in the lobby to her experience. We actually, I think, if one almost heart issue, and they called the EMT people there in the poker room, and I guess that's what happens when you go all in sometimes, you know.
yeah, the pushing element can get the ticker going. Um, we're having a little bit of audio glitch, but we'll keep going, and I'll let you know if it gets too bad. But yeah, I started by sharing a little bit of the story of how we met. That you were the first unsolicited golf coach that I ever heard from, which was at that time and still to this day quite a compliment to me about a book that I had written, gotten a lot of help to write. That it
Sure.
meant something to someone like you. But then the way we actually met in person is we went to Foxwoods to your wife's, had a business dinner or a dinner with some old colleagues, and
Yeah.
took my mom as my wingman. And we had a grand old time, and that's how we met. And we've remained friends ever since.
No doubt. Yeah. You hit it on the head. You know, lots of long distance communication and an in-person meeting for sure.
Yeah, well, then I came out to San Diego, and you hooked me up with the guys at Pro Kids and a bunch of other coaches, and your friendship and your support on my movement has meant a lot to me. So this is an exciting day for me because, as I said in the intro, I've been trying to get you to do this now for 2 years.
No, we've been threatening for some time.
Yeah, and here you are. Oh, there's Karen making a little appearance in the
Oh,
background in the mirror.
she's checking on Wrigley. I think is destroying a cardboard box in the bathroom.
Nice. Well, I can't hear it, so we're good on this end. But why don't we start there? I mean, you heard about this book through Jason Gore, who you played
Yeah,
junior golf with. I'd like to get to that a little later about maybe some stories about Gore and Tiger from junior golf, if you have any. Uh,
sure.
but not to pat myself on the back, but I would like people to hear how you came across the book and why it meant so much to you and why you felt the need to reach out directly. I think that's a cool story, and a lot of other people might be able to be helped by a similar type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, oddly enough, I believe it was an Instagram post
Mm-hmm.
that Gore had put up, and he wrote the foreword to your book, and I think I may have messaged him directly. Um, I mean, Gore is one of my, I would say, kind of a California idol. Always being around him, desert junior golf and California junior golf and amateur, all that stuff. And Gore, he's just a guy that be a big bear hug, and if you haven't seen him in 15 years, so it's like you pick up where you last left off. So
Yeah.
the Instagram post led me to reach out to you, and we started chatting, and you mentioned about the book, and I just kind of dove head first, cannonball into the Zilosophy pool, and really embraced a lot of there's probably a couple of the chapters that really hit home for me from a personal playing standpoint. And then I started sharing that with my clients as, here's a different way to go about being on the golf course. Since I do coach a lot of high level executives, a lot of their mindset is, hey, I'm really good at business. I should be good at golf. Well, golf doesn't owe you anything. And you might be good at business, but you got to put in the work at golf, and not only, the reps, but also mentally. So it's just been an easy transition to integrate the platform with my database.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. It just reminded me of, I have a 16-year-old nephew. Shout out. Hi, Ari. He just started playing golf. He's a really athletic kid. Um, and he's incredibly frustrated that it just doesn't come naturally and it's not easy right away.
Right.
which is not how golf works. He's like, well, I was pretty good at football right away. I'm like, yeah, but football's pretty different from golf.
Right.
And I'm not a golf coach like you. I have coached a few golfers mentally, and I look to do more of that. It's a lot of fun. But I have coached a lot of friends and family because I know so many coaches like you, and I've made so many mistakes over my golfing career that I know lots of little tips on how to fix things. So I took him out to the range, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now. And he was just like, I'm a lost cause. This is never going to work. I'm like, well, mentally, that's probably not the thought process that you want going into making a golf swing. So I was able to help him unwind that and show him a few tips and get him to hit it pure a few times. And then then he shanked one. He said, well, I did the exact same thing and it didn't work. I said, yeah, but you didn't do the exact same thing. And that's the part you got to figure out now. What'd you do differently?
Yeah. So quick story on the football. It just popped in my head when you mentioned it, frustration. So I want to say in 2001, I was connected with, I think I shared the story with you. I was connected with Rodney Harrison, who's,
Yeah.
Superstar for many years, played for the Chargers and then retired with the Patriots. And we got connected. That's right, Patriots. You're the East Coast fan, the actual fan. So we got paired to playing around the golf, and he was actually thinking about sponsoring me for a couple of events. And we go out and play this round. He's like a raw beginner, but super ripped at the time. This was during his prime, right? In the early 2000s. So we played this round of golf together, and on the golf course, his demeanor was just fabulous. Like never got upset. It didn't match his on-field personality as it was what he was doing on the golf course, right? Like I would never want to be running down the field across, running a route and have him 11 feet from me. I'd probably get lit up pretty quick, just like anyone.
Right.
Right?
Even at your size.
Even at my size, yeah, he'd probably, break a few things. But what was interesting when we sat down afterwards, I said, Rodney, I have to share something from you. Something that I witnessed today is that you didn't get upset. And, he was hitting golf shots that were 4 yards and hit a house and, all these other things when we were playing this round of golf.
Yeah.
And I said, congrats on your demeanor. And he just said, the way I look at it is I'm not good enough to get upset. Plain and simple. He's like, I don't have the right to be upset until I'm good.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the truth about all of us at any level, right? Even maybe the most elite pro golfers can say they're past that, but us mortals will never be past that. Even you, a guy I've had the privilege to play with, and to see you hit a golf ball and the way you putt is pretty extraordinary. You're a hell of a golfer, but you're going to make mistakes all the time.
Of course.
I mean,
sometimes the golf ball doesn't cooperate. That's the way I feel a lot of my clients. You can envision all day long and go through the proper execution, but sometimes that ball just doesn't cooperate.
Yeah, I mean, as I was waiting for you to come on, I was scrolling through Instagram and saw that Bobby Jones quote about how golf is the perfect mirror of life. You're going to hit good shots and get bad breaks. You're going to hit bad shots and get good breaks. And either way, you've got to play it as it lies.
Very true.
And, that was not that specific quote, but that idea was really the impetus of me writing this book. And even Gore and many people have said to me, how come no one's ever written a book like this? I always say, I don't know, but you can't say that anymore because I did.
That's right.
And I just think it's just so fascinating how anytime you're out there on the course, you can find a correlation, or ironically, you're sitting in front of a mirror of where you are in life.
Sure.
If you're struggling in life and things aren't going well and there's a lot going on in your head, you're probably not going to go out and play very well that day. And that happens to all of us. And there are other times where things just seem to be clicking and you go out and you don't even know why. You just play great. You feel good.
Very true.
So along those lines, like why I usually don't prepare questions ahead of time, but I got a couple for you today. And one of them is, why has golf been so important to you in your life? Not just as something you're really passionate about, an activity you enjoy, but the lessons that it's taught you and how it's allowed you to help other people through those lessons.
Wow, great question.
Thank you.
No, I was always attracted to golf because I didn't need anyone else to be around to hone my craft. I realized that if the light was out and I could walk to the driving range or the golf course. I grew up in Bonita, California, just outside of Chula Vista, and literally the driving range was about 3/4 of a mile from our house in on Sweetwater Road, old school. And I would walk there through the little river area and shag balls on the range to learn, so I can get free balls. I didn't have money to buy buckets of balls, and back then I think it was $2.25 for a small bucket of balls. Now it's $11.25, right?
Wow.
For you. But it was just one of those things. My grandfather got me started when I was about 9 years old. I'm originally a left-handed dominant person. I am ambidextrous. And I took my grandfather's club, switched them around, and was like, okay, well, let me hit it this way. And he said, no, it's a right-handed club. You actually have to learn right-handed. And we went to this place back in the day. They used to have this golf shop called Polar Golf Shop in San Diego downtown, which I'm sure it's a big name in San Diego. It's no longer around. But you walk into this place and they had 38 right-handed sets and 1 left-handed set. My grandfather's like, have at it. Like, what do you want? I'm like, oh, well, those are real shiny, right? So I gravitated towards a right-handed, right-handed club because that's what I had been instructed to. So in that process of learning and switching from a lefty to a righty, that's a very unique scenario. I write left-handed, I eat left-handed, but I throw right-handed and I play golf right-handed.
It's like
so a little bit of a different. What's that?
Just like Phil Mickelson, right? Isn't he the opposite?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jordan Spieth, I believe, is lefty dominant. Coach Trevino up in Reno, my coach, he's actually full lefty, but he plays righty. So he's a different anomaly. But,
shout out to him. So continue. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it was what it taught me as growing up. I was a multi-sport player. I played a lot of soccer growing up. I didn't really have my growth spurt until I was about 15 years old. And golf was just when I was playing soccer, injured, shin splints and, banged up feet and all this other stuff. And I was like, on the golf course, it's kind of hard to get injured. So I'm not having people, running after me on the field. I was a goalie playing in soccer like my brother.
When you're young, yes, but at our age now, it's not that hard to get injured on the golf course.
Yeah, exactly. As the text that I got 2 days ago from my client who's 55 that said, hey, coach, I got to take off some time from coaching. I blew out my knee playing basketball. He's 57. Yeah, hey, rethink that one. So we're not in that shape as we were when we were teenagers.
I still got friends our age in their 40s playing hockey. I'm like, you're playing with fire.
Take your chances on the golf course. But my grandfather was an established businessman in the oil and gas industry and very professional. So he would always share with me that learn golf, get good at it. If you want to pursue golf as your career, then really get good at it. Or this is something, golf is an integral part of business the more that you move on in your lifetime. So he used golf as, as a member of a country club in Philadelphia. They retired out in San Diego. And unfortunately, he passed away literally a year after he started me in golf. And then I just kind of took it on my own. So very, very young, starting at 9. By the time I was 13, I really knew that golf was kind of my thing. I didn't have to have friends to practice. If it wasn't lightning or thunderstorms, not that happens very often in San Diego, but
right.
flooding the golf course, I was out there practicing and trying to figure it out,
Yeah. So along that, back to, I'm glad that you shared that story, and I actually wish I asked you that question first, but you answered it first, so we're all good. Along that journey, either at that time or later, because a lot of times as a kid, I don't know. Did the first tee wasn't around then, so you didn't have an organization like that to drive home the life lessons. So when
Right.
did that start to click for you that golf was a mirror of life, and what were the first lessons and or the most important lessons that you've gotten from
I think it started clicking right around my first tournament in San Diego. So I played my first ever junior golf tournament at what's now called the Loma Club, which used to be called Sail Ho Golf Course over in Liberty Station area. And um, playing at San Diego Junior Golf has been around forever, so I'm a big fan of a product of that organization, and the people that run it have been fabulous over the years. But sticking the tee in the ground and literally blading my shot over, I remember this like it was yesterday. It was an 80-yard hole. I bladed my iron 50 yards over the green and ended up making I made a good putt for double bogey. My first, I'm like 10 years old, right? There was no, like, you couldn't touch the ball. You couldn't get your eraser out on your scorecard, right? Everything was integrity. And that's really one of the first lessons that my grandfather had shared with me, is that golf is a sport where we penalize ourselves, right? It's just one of those things that we're not waiting for someone else to call offensive foul, or your offsides in hockey, whatever it is. In golf, we penalize ourselves. So it's one of those, sportsmanship and integrity, and also etiquette. Etiquette was a big thing for me growing up, and learning, um, as weird as it might sound, just where do you stand when other people are playing, and how to avoid like peripheral vision of standing in someone's way or behind them, or hey, get me a soft drink while someone's hitting a shot right in the middle of their swing. So the
that?
etiquette was always something that was really cool.
Yeah. Which actually happened to me the other day. I was at the tee, and this guy they didn't realize they were right next to the tee and yelling to his dad or something, literally right at the top of my backswing. And there's constant noise. It doesn't bother me, but I don't know anybody that when you're like, all of a sudden you get here and somebody yells, it's going to affect you.
Right.
And I know that because I've played with you and I know you, that etiquette is still a big thing to you on the golf course and in life. Like, look, there's a code of conduct here, and it's not just do whatever you want whenever you want. There's other people involved. Your actions affect those other people, and we should be conscious of that. Not so conscious that we do everything that we're worried about how it's going to affect other people, but just be aware that there's other people here on this planet, in this country, and the things that we say and do can have an effect on them. And I think that's a great lesson. And obviously integrity, I wrote a whole chapter about that.
Yeah.
Integrity.
One of my favorite chapters.
Yeah. Right. And I think that really that is one of the cool things about golf, and why it's exciting through COVID. Unfortunately, this is happening, but one of the great benefits is the game is growing faster than ever again, faster than it has since Tiger came around. And one of the great lessons that I hope people get from it is integrity. Sure, you can kick the ball when no one's looking, but you did it. And guess what? You know me, and I know you. I'm a pretty spiritual guy. I know you are too. The universe knows you did it. The golf gods know you did it. And
right.
Karma is real, and karma doesn't forget.
That's true.
So go ahead and kick the ball when no one's looking.
Yeah.
When you get a bad break 3 holes from now, or 3 rounds from now, or 3 years from now, that's your karmic debt being paid back.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that that's a really cool way to look at golf. Again, like, not a lot of people are as philosophical about it as you and I are. I hope more and more people become more philosophical, because to me, it is the ultimate training ground for life.
Yeah. Just when you talk about philosophical, I wanted to share a little on that. When I was young and practicing, 13, 14 years old, when I really started getting, a lot better at golf, I wasn't very fun to be around on the golf course. I can share with you that, plain and simple.
Yeah.
I was unfortunately a club thrower. I wasn't a club breaker. I was a pretty darn good club thrower when I was in my early teens. And I learned very quickly that people don't want to be around that.
Yeah.
And the boohoo, the pity party, right? Going back to that Rodney Harrison story, like that guy didn't get mad. He didn't throw a club. So what gives me the right to throw a club when I'm 14 years old?
Also, more to the point, I want to ask you if you can look back and think about this. How often did you play better when you did that?
Oh, I would say the percentages are super low. Like, you know,
Right.
it didn't make a difference. It was more,
Well, and if it did make a difference, it was not in the direction.
no. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to throw this club and make a birdie from, you know, you're going to make double. It's not.
Now, I've heard with some people through my talks and podcasts that like there are a very small percentage of people that have this unique thing that they get really mad and somehow that locks them in the zone and calms them down and then they focus better. That's pretty rare.
Extremely rare. I would love to count on one hand if there are certain, you know, I don't have to go Hall of Fame players, but let's just say upper elite golfers in the past 50 years that truly got better the more pissed off that they got.
Yeah, I mean, you could even see on tour now, there are some guys, Terrell Hatton is one that comes to mind, who's got a really fiery temperament. And I do think that that drives him. But like, it's like, where's the point of diminishing returns where that goes too far and it's unchecked? And now you're just pissed off and you're not really focusing on and present with what's actually happening right now.
Right.
And if you watch, you know, it's really hard for me to watch Jordan Spieth these days because he's gotten a little bit better at it, but you can tell the guy's one of the best golfers to come out in the last 10 years, but his mental temperament is just holding him back from being what he can be.
Yeah.
Letting go of past shots, good or bad.
Yeah.
It's a really great lesson in golf because we have to do that in life. We no longer have control over that thing that happened. It's gone now. And this is where I talk about Eckhart Tolle a lot in the book, and I promote his book, The Power of Now, a lot more than my own, because it's a great book. It's like golf is another great teacher. Like, how do you stay present from moment to moment when it's not going well? And how do you unravel that? So I don't know if you can talk about that, you know, as a teacher, when you're on the range with someone who's just constantly making the same mistake over and over, and you're trying to help them see it and they can't, and frustration sets in. Talk about that. What's that like for you? What's that like for them? How do you get past it?
Yeah. Usually I tell them to take a water break.
Yeah, good piece of advice.
Yeah. You just, you know, carom 3 off the fence, 50 yards right with a 7-iron. Let's go ahead and take a water break real quick. Um, you know, it's one of those getting them to reset. Usually it's do me a favor, take a moment, you know, take a breather. You and I talked about breathing, and even in one of the rounds, I shared an awkward shot that when you were with me in the round, my mental thought that came through, and actually it unraveled. So that process of kind of getting me recentered, um, a lot of it for me personally has been breathing. I've been working on that with capturing certain counts of breaths and kind of recentering.
Yeah.
These high level executives that are entrepreneurs and running, you know, powerful businesses, a lot of the times it's, you know, it's hard to get them reset.
Right.
Like, oh, I hit 2 bad shots in a row, and then it just spirals out.
They're just go mentality, power through it mentality, which isn't necessarily the best thing all the time.
Correct. Yeah, I would say it varies per individual. I mean, that's the beautiful part about being a coach is, you know, understanding the personalities of the folks that you're around, who you're helping. And really my number one, like, just ultimate part of doing what I do is that it helps me be unselfish. You know, for the longest time, being a professional athlete and going to that, I want to get on tour, I want to win the Masters, you know, playing the U.S. Open, all those dreams that I had in my head growing up.
Yeah.
It was something that, you know, it's a lot. It's really hard. Like, that's the crux of it, right? I mean, there's an elite number of people who get to that level, and maintaining the proper temperament along the way, and focus and drive and all that to get where you're looking to get. But high level people tend to get upset a lot of times when a couple golf shots go awry, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're not used to making mistakes or having things not necessarily go their way. They're used to succeeding, and it can be
Right.
difficult. I think what you just said is really important. It's one of the great mirrors and great lessons that golf can ever teach. This is a really hard game, golf and life.
Right.
It does get easier if you practice things the right way and you work on the right things, but it never gets easy, brother.
No, interesting. My wife shared something that when things don't go your way, the inner child comes out and becomes a baby, right? The big baby comes out and, well, it bounced. Unfortunately, it hit the rake and, buried in the bunker, or hit a sprinkler and went into the water hazard, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, and
just,
you can throw a tantrum and say that's not fair. Okay, great. It's not fair. It already happened. What's the difference? What story you tell yourself about it? Well, the difference is the story you tell yourself about it might help prepare you for the next shot a little bit better. So if you tell yourself a story of like, wow, that was great to watch. Let's see what I can do now. That's maybe a better story to stay present on the next shot. And I'm glad you mentioned that story because I hadn't thought about that for a while, but I remember it vividly when we were playing together and you hit a couple bad shots and you're like, Z, I'm struggling mentally right now. What do I do?
yeah,
I said, I'm not really necessarily sure, but I know one thing. Why don't you just breathe
right,
and see what that does for you? Because breathing is a great exercise to just reset you in the moment and bring you back into your body and out of your mind, which is a
right,
lot of the thing that we do. And I write about in the book. Another thing when it gets really bad that I'll do is I'll actually out loud say to myself, stop, reset. So that it's a verbal out loud thing that I'm hearing and saying to go, oh, okay, that spiral that I'm in is not going to help me. Somehow I have to stop this. I can choose something different, but not until I stop choosing that. And I think that that's a really cool, unique thing. And again, golf is a great place to practice that you can do it in life because as we've seen this year, this has been probably the most challenging year that you and I have been alive for most people around the planet. Everybody's struggling with something mentally, physically, financially, emotionally.
right.
How do we, and golf is a thing where you can struggle with all of those things. So how do you practice when you're out on the golf course to be a little bit better and a little bit calmer with those storms when they come through
Right.
life?
I totally agree. It's the circumstances in life right now. Everything is challenging, right? I mean, people who my wife experiences Zoom fatigue, right? This is my fifth ever Zoom experience, by the way. So
Oh, congratulations.
if I'm not doing Zoom etiquette, let me know. But I don't have the,
You just proved how serious you are about etiquette. I like that.
yeah, exactly. But I had it's funny, a couple come out to the club on Sunday, and I was talking to a client before about doing couples golf counseling. That was my newest little marketing thought.
I love it.
How do I get a husband and wife or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, out in an environment where it's safe, there's fresh air, there's exercise, there's bonding. And the biggest gripe that some of the women were sharing with me was, my husband doesn't know what he's talking about, and he doesn't know that he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? So I want to talk to someone who knows what they're talking about. And then I was joking with Karen, and I said, why don't we just do some, like couples golf counseling? Come out for a couple hours, get away from the Zoom calls, and stretch your legs, and
Yeah.
hit some golf balls, roll some putts, and maybe we'll do a little TrackMan putting or something like that. And
The other thing I think about that's a great idea, Jeff, is again, golf is a place where things are going to go wrong. And how are you going to react? And either you're going to separate and blame each other and point fingers and not listen, or you're going to come together and help each other figure it out, or one of you help the other figure it out. And I think that that's a really cool angle to have, that like, hey, this is a place to practice your marriage when things don't go right. Because, I just met this woman, we did a podcast, we had this connection, and I said, look, let's do a road trip together, and we'll know pretty quickly whether there's a real connection here or not. That did not end up going all that well, but you learn pretty quickly, rather than going through 6 months or a year,
Right.
uh, like, is this going to work, to like, hey, let's just get in the car and figure it out. And golf course is another place. Let's just get on the golf course and figure it out. If we're only fighting on the golf course, if we're never supporting each other and helping each other, maybe this isn't the right relationship. And if we find a way to become more supportive and more connected on the golf course, well, then maybe there's hope for us off of the golf course. I think that's brilliant, dude. As you can see, I'm totally in.
Well, that's a, maybe a second podcast on, counseling and golf and all that. But something else that I just thought of about, give yourself a pat. What's the chapter about, um, giving yourself a pat on the back that you had written about?
Uh,
Like, give yourself a break, right? Give
yeah.
yourself
Yeah. So that, I think you're talking about Critics' Choice.
yeah, exactly. So
Most people tell me the most real chapter that they think that I wrote, because it's been a very real struggle my whole life. I've gotten a lot better even since writing the book. I was a double bogey when I wrote the book. I'm hovering about a par right now, but
right,
self-criticism generally doesn't help you get better.
yeah, and that, going back to the club throwing as a kid, and evolving into never, even in my professional, when I was 22, that was, I removed that from my game. However, the part that I didn't remove from my professional career was getting down on myself and, never patting myself on the back. It's like you hit the ball into the gunch, you make an amazing shot out to an 8-foot opportunity for a conversion, and then it horseshoes on you. Well, then it just unraveled from there, saying, well, why didn't I make the putt? Well, first of all, it should have been, why did you hit it in the not so good stuff? You hit an amazing shot to get it to where you can make a conversion, and lo and behold, you walk away with what could have been a triple bogey is only a bogey, right? So it was, um, just not being my biggest fan, I think, was really, head on for me, and that's part of what the book that I and I'll continue to reread some of the chapters, but golf is one of those sports where in the span of about 7 minutes, you can kick yourself in the stomach, pat yourself on the back, and then punch yourself in the face. It's like, it literally can happen in that, no particular order, right? But
Right.
those are just that's why golf is just so amazing. And that's why I've been in love with this game ever since I was a little kid. And having the luxury and, for just the fortune of being out in an environment where, again, I get to be unselfish. Being a professional golfer, or aspiring to be a professional golfer, for all those, low single digit people and scratch players that are out there looking to play golf for a living, be prepared to be the center of your own universe for a long time. That's very true. You have to be the center of your own universe.
That's right.
Part of my existence now, which my wife has helped me. She's been very helpful and, trying to remove me from the center of my own universe, especially when I'm in my relationship with her, my relationship with our business, my relationship with clients, right? All those different segments. I truly enjoy being unselfish. That's the bottom line.
Well, that's a great point that you bring up. Yes, it has a lot of weight with golf, but more importantly with life, right? Like, each of us only has our own perception. And the only way for any of us to be happy, is to find that happiness within ourselves, that's always there, no matter what's going on around us. Now, you can take that too far and become so self-centered that you're not paying attention to everything that's going on around you. So the blessing of that finding that balance of like, yes, my happiness, my joy only comes from me, then I take that and I project that out into the world and give it to everybody, because then it eventually gets reflected back to me. And that's a good way of being selfish. As I always remind, what the Dalai Lama calls wise selfishness. The more you give to others, the more you get. And golf's a really unique thing that way. And there are a lot of guys and women that I see on golf groups. You know, I go on these golf groups on Facebook and talk about this stuff with people, and promote the book a little bit, but mostly have these conversations so that I can have a better understanding of where people are. And you still have those really old school, really third dimension guys that are like, there is no mental side of golf. It's just get out there and hit it. It's all technique. Of course, I never even respond to those guys, because it's like, okay, that's one way to do it. Certainly not a way that I would recommend, because
Right.
you're writing off this whole side that's there to teach you about life, that you can use this game as an amazing tool to learn about yourself. And what you're saying is, I don't want to learn about myself. I'm perfect. I'm fine. Well, you might be fine. You're certainly not perfect. As I write about in the book, there is no perfect. That's why golf's a great game. No matter how good you get, you're going to miss all the time. And two, it's not about trying to be perfect. It's about working on the things that allow you to be your best on and off the course. So yeah,
Totally agree.
I think that it's a unique thing. Another thing I wanted to bring up that we didn't get to yet was that you struggled with, you talked about being young and being frustrated. I had the same type of thing. I was never a real big club thrower, although it did happen. Both of us struggled with drinking and using drinking to numb the anger and the pain that we felt as people. And maybe as golfers, as many a golfers, I go on these boards again. Hey, how do you deal with mental side? I get on the first tee and I pound a beer, and then I drink one per hole for the rest of the round. Okay, I've done that too. Sure, it can relax you, but again, there's certainly a point of diminishing return where your motor functions are not ideal for playing a game like golf. But I know you struggled with drinking for a long time, and you eventually stopped, and you haven't drank for a long time. I've been, over the last couple of years, working towards that. I'm not quite there yet. I'm now to the point where really I'll have a glass of wine with dinner here and there, maybe a couple of drinks if I'm with my brothers. But other than that, like, it's becoming less and less of a part of my life, which feels really good mentally, physically, and emotionally. So talk about your journey and struggle with that.
Yeah, I would say journey and struggle over the past number of years. I was going back to collegiate times and right before turning pro. I drove the ball really far. I putted my ass off. And when I did well in a golf tournament, I drank. When I didn't do well in a golf tournament, I drank. And that I followed that path throughout my entire professional career, where I wasn't able to disseminate between playing like shit and drinking and playing really good and drinking. So
Right.
it's like, hey, hey, I missed a cut. We're heading to the bar.
Right.
Top 10, we're heading to the bar. Like that.
Right. It's either a celebration or drinking away your sorrow. So you're always drinking.
Correct. So, there's only so much that, looking back in retrospect, and so May 4th of 13 was my last bit of alcohol, and I had a health experience that popped up Memorial Day of 2013 that really set things in perspective for me. The biggest reset I could have ever had in my life. And since May 4th of 13, I've been sober. So over, 7 years plus, whatever the number is exactly. Some good days, some bad days, some really good days, some not so good days. It's just one of those things. But that was, how would my professional career have gone if I was sober versus the guy that was, celebrating with it and drowning with it, right? Like, how could it have gone? Well, looking in the rearview mirror, I don't know. I don't know what it would have been like if I wasn't on that warpath with alcohol. But in looking back these past 7+ years, I wouldn't be married. I can tell you that right now. My wife was very straightforward in my health situation. and I was in the hospital for 11 days, ICU. I was in general population hospital for another 5 days, call it 16 days total. Lost 47 pounds in that time frame. And the doctors came into the room. I've shared this story with you. The doctor came in the room and said, "Hey, Mr. Goldstein, you're really good at drinking in your former, playing days and your life in general. But if you do it again, you'll die." So the life or death scenario for me was, I don't really have a choice. I need to be in integrity. And by the way, not drinking is in integrity. If I go on the warpath of that, going towards alcohol again, I'm out of integrity. And my wife will happily say, "Bye-bye, we're done here." And I've been able to, we've had multiple conversations, not like, it's been discussed. So what I share with clients now, and especially in a COVID environment where people are dealing with all these other elements of, being by themselves and this whole Zoom thing and not having a chance to get out and play golf. People might be drowning in, alcohol or, whatever it is that their vice could be. There is hope. I mean, I've rebounded from a spot in my life where I wasn't in a good spot. I was not a nice person to be around. And being sober is, at this point, the only way for me. My cardiologist will back that up, and he's a smart dude, and he saved my life. I mean, that's at the end of the day, when your cardiologist says, "Hey man, limit your amount of caffeine. You drink alcohol, you die."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that in many ways you're fortunate to be forced into it, right? But you've gotten a lot of perspective since you stopped, because once you stop doing something like that, you're allowed to see like, oh wow, I was like that, and that was really holding me back. So if you could share some of that for the people like myself, and I'm not talking about this just selfishly, but many other people listening to this who still have a choice whether to drink or not to drink, or like you said, pick any other vice, whether it's sex or TV or drugs or food or whatever you're doing too much of that's hurting you.
Poker could be a vice.
Yeah, exactly. Poker, right? Whatever you're doing to escape reality, but you had to face your reality because you didn't have a choice, but you learned a lot from not having a choice and giving that up. And so what was the most important thing, or some of the most important
Wow, some of the most important things. I mean, I became a better cook.
things? That's cool.
So Karen and I, over the past several years, have just gotten much better at home cooked meals, and watching a lot more of the cooking shows, and it's amazing what you can learn, and all these different recipes that are out there. So we're by no means chef's table stuff here, but we have gotten better, and also that's led to, for me, budgeting. When I was drinking and playing, Trevino, if he ever watches this podcast, he'll know this first and foremost. So we used to call it the Delta Sky Miles. And when I was on the road, we were on the road, and hey, lo and behold, it's like, oh, we made the cut. Let's go drink. So we would go to Applebee's and have whatever amount of food and alcohol, and slap down the Delta American Express Sky Miles card, and like, oh, $120. Like, cool. This is in the early 2000s, right? You can see how much drinking could have.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, from a financial standpoint. Not having a drink of alcohol in over 7 years, I actually have money in my wallet, and I have money in my bank account, and I'm sure the people out there that might be teetering on the side of like, hey, well, now there's curfews, right? You can't go out and hang out at a bar until 1 a.m. But regardless, like, you go to have dinner with your spouse, and you get 2 martinis and 2 glasses of wine. I mean, I don't care where you go, man. That's $75 just right there.
Right.
So the budgeting component, becoming a better person in the kitchen,
Let me ask you.
The budget.
Let me ask it this way, because those are great things, obviously. But you used alcohol. You've explained, and I've done this too. We've all done it to celebrate, to feel joy. You've also used it to overcome sadness and disappointment. But now you don't have that crutch for those things. So how do you, as a sober person, experience joy and sadness differently?
Um, Man, that's a great question. You
Thanks.
know,
Pretty
for,
good at this.
for me, really, being on the course is my center. You know, being in my own golf cart or walking out to the tee box, helping someone, you know, execute a shot, greenside or you know, going through the whole thought process. That is my balance. And the whole joy and sadness thing, I mean, you know, I've experienced sadness. We lost our two cats that were 17 and 18 years old uh, last year and earlier this year. So that was pretty sad, you know, but I couldn't go grab a bottle of Captain Morgan and just like, hey man, you know, we're going to make this right.
Yeah.
It's more of just accepting the fact that there was loss.
Yeah.
And you know, the number of vices in my repertoire right now, I don't have, you know, other than iced teas, like that's my thing, you know, I drown myself in iced teas.
Well, that was sort of my point. I was hoping you would get to is that like just feeling the joy and feeling the sadness. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of what we're here to do, whether that's on the golf course or off the golf course. Normalizing it, allowing it to be what it is. Like, oh, I'm having a joyful moment. I just hit a great shot. I'm having a sad moment. I just lost my 17-year-old cat. Those are both very valid moments and important moments to feel and not run away from. And I know that I'm speaking from my own experience now that I've used my alcohol to run away from things like that I didn't want to feel. You know, golf is like one of those things. I actually wanted to bring this up. I don't know. Are you familiar with Nate Lashley's story? PGA player. So they ran this, I've seen this before, but they ran this story on Golf Channel this morning. This guy, Nate Lashley, is a bit younger than us, just won his first tournament 2 years ago, 2019. No, I guess that's still last year. He was a college player from Nebraska playing in Arizona. His parents and his girlfriend flew out to see him play in the Western Regional Finals where he helped the team qualify for the Nationals. His dad flew a small plane out there from Nebraska to Oregon. On the way home, they crashed, and his mother, father, and girlfriend all died. So the reason I bring this up is golf is a great place to practice when things aren't going well. And of course, that's about as poorly as things can go in life. How do you find a way to continue? And golf's a great place to practice that. So for this guy, obviously it was incredibly difficult. You know, at first you pour yourself into golf so that you don't think about it. And then after a while, he's not playing well. He goes to sell houses. He decides he can't be a tour player. And the short version of the story is he overcomes that. He gets back into playing, obviously plays well, gets into the Detroit tournament in 2019, which I think was the first year of that tournament. As the last alternate, shoots 63 on Thursday and Saturday and wins the tournament.
Oh, awesome.
And, you know, again, that's a great feel-good story, but like it didn't feel good to him when it was happening.
Right.
And when we're on the golf course or things aren't going well in life, it doesn't feel good. But how do you find a way to keep going anyway? You know, I play with a lot of people, and maybe you felt this when you first started playing. I know I did. When things aren't going well, you think, well, screw this game. I don't want to play anymore. But, okay, are you losing an opportunity to grow as a person and to experience joy on the golf course because you just don't want to feel the pain anymore? I've told the story before, I think, on the podcast, maybe not, but I met this woman once in a business meeting. Her dog had just died. She was in her 50s or 60s, not an old woman. She said, I don't think I'll ever own a dog again. I just can't deal with that pain anymore. And I remember thinking, like, okay, I understand that, of course. But what about if you owned a dog? What about all the moments of joy you would experience before you experienced that moment of pain? You're just willing to give all of that up? And so, to me, that's again why golf is a really cool sport and a really good training ground. It can be really, really painful, but how do you find a way forward? And that's why I kind of want to turn this back to you now that I've shared that story about Nate Lashley. Maybe you have some stories that you thought of, or like what you think, or how you help clients when it's not going well. Like, hey, this is painful sometimes. How do you keep going anyway?
Yeah. Um, a big part of it, I believe, is acceptance, and motivating them, myself or themselves, to know that good golf is right around the corner. In coaching a lot of entrepreneurs and C-level executives is what I've immersed myself in over the past few years. I've made a few analogies where, look, in owning a business 12 months out of the year, there might be 1 or 2 months or 1 or 2 weeks that just kind of put things in perspective. Like, hey man, we had a really rough month at XYZ plumbing company or whatever it is, right? And knowing that you're not going to wake up every single day after that happens and go, we're going to have a terrible day. The next day, we're going to have a terrible day. Like the next day, we're going to have that's not going to be the path of some of these high-level people. So it's just like golf, right? I mean, you might miss that 7-foot opportunity for birdie on hole number 3. So what are you going to do? Are you going to step up on hole number 4 and say, oh, I'm going to hit another one 7 feet and miss that one? Or are you going to be like, Steph Curry in the NBA, who says, give me the ball, let me shoot? Whether the guy misses 11 3-pointers in a row, what does he still want? He wants the ball shoot, right?
Yeah.
So if you put yourself, and that's a lot of what I talk about, the magic of 7 feet, there's actually a number for that. If we can help clients get to that conversion zone of 7 feet and in, your numbers go up. So whatever you can do to put yourself in a position to face more putts inside of 7 feet, your percentages will increase. You're not always going to miss putts inside of 7 feet, especially if you practice them. And that was funny that one of the points that you had mentioned about, I don't know if it was giving or something like that, but I had to coach a client on, you're not allowed to give putts from 3 to 3.5 feet anymore. And he couldn't understand why. And I said, well, it's out of integrity. You can't take your 3-footer away and write down the score when you don't actually execute the movement. You have a 3-foot putt, putt the putt. Like, don't pick it up and put it in your pocket just because you don't want to miss that putt and add a stroke to your score.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you talk about a lot too, most coaches do, I think is great, is putting. And I think this is in the book. I say to my dad all the time when we go out and play, and he plays less now because he's getting older, but he gets really frustrated when he doesn't make putts and he can't putt well. And I said, Dad, I've known you my whole life. I've never seen you practice putting. Not once. How do you expect to be any good at it if you don't practice? By the way, he's got a nice long hallway. He could practice every day if he wanted, just hitting putts in the hallway. Doesn't do it. But to go back to you, I want to share another story that because you read the book, and I may have even shared with you personally. And it's not just to pat myself on the back, but it's a good moment to do that. It's really a good story to express what you just said about like just keeping going. Good golf can be right around the corner. So I'm playing golf this one day. I get paired up with these 2 guys. They're not playing well. They start drinking. They're not really good to begin with. They're not playing well anyway. We get to the 13th tee. They had just bought a 6-pack each and started pounding beers. And they say, hey, sorry, we're really not this bad. And I looked right at them as I was teeing the ball up and said, guys, I'm playing like crap too. I'm just trying to hit good shots. 30 seconds later, from 190 yards, the ball was in the hole. I hit a pretty good shot, and of course I got lucky. I hit a great line, but the trajectory was a little low. landed just short of the green, rolled right to the cup, hit the pin, and dropped.
Mhm.
You just never know. And that's really, again, I'm not telling that to pat myself on the back for my one hole in one that I have, but
Hey, man.
it's like you just really never know. If you just keep going, you don't know what might happen. And so there's really, yeah, there's going to be some pain that happens for sure if you keep going. Absolutely, 100% there will be more pain. But there will also be incredible joy.
Sure.
And it could be the joy of making a hole in one. It could be the joy of making a 50-foot birdie putt. You hit a crap approach shot, and then you made a 50 or 60-foot birdie putt. We've both seen that happen, right? So I think that that's, again, a really good, and especially for now, where people are struggling so much, there's so much turmoil and supposed division in the country. If you go talk to people, I don't think the division is nearly as bad as we're being told. But it's a really scary time for a lot of people, and understandably so. We have to find a way to keep going. We cannot stop now. We cannot say our country is lost because it's so divided. We have to keep going. We don't know when we're going to hit a great shot and everything's going to be okay all of a sudden. So, again, I think that that's a great message for golfers and for people. Right. And so we're starting to get through to about an hour now. So I don't want to go too much longer, but I did want to ask you one more thing that I have on my list because I'm excited. I don't know if I know what it is, but like, you have a lot of Jason Gore fans out there. Like you said, he was the unofficial ambassador of the tour for many years. Everybody loved that guy. They still do, which is why the USGA was smart enough to hire him as their player liaison, because they had some issues with player relations. And if you want to fix it, put a guy like Jason Gore there, he'll fix it. But any junior golf stories you have of Gore, Tiger, or any of the other guys you played with that, other people like myself might not have gotten a chance to experience that you can share?
I mean, so good. Both of those guys were just the ultimate players. Tiger, junior golf more at a younger level, playing a few events with him and high school events. I won't ever forget that our state championship one year was at Marbella Country Club up in kind of San Juan Capistrano area.
Yep.
If you hit it offline on the tee shot into a fairway bunker, it would actually plug. It's not very fair, but that was their golf course. I think, and who knows what the actual stats were, but I believe Tiger won by like 14 shots or some crazy number on the individual side. Jason might be able to know better because I think he was playing in the same event so many years. I think it was like 95 or 90. I'm sorry. No, it must have been 90 or 91.
Yeah.
That was our high school time frame. And I just remember with Gore playing in a lot of the desert junior golf tournaments, playing the Vintage and La Quinta and all these just Monterey Country Club and the guy shooting under par. Like, you go shoot 68 at Monterey Country Club, and meanwhile I'm tapping in for bogey on the last hole to shoot 76 and
Feeling pretty good.
Right? Like, woo! I just shot 4 over and I lost by 8. What happened? Like, what's that guy doing? Right? Yeah, just great individual. I think the last time that I saw him was 2008 sectional qualifier at US Open at Lake Merced, where he won. It was 54 degrees on the beginning of June, and Karen was out there following me around, and for 36 holes walking. Gorgeous. I want to say he won by 3 or 4. It was pretty impressive on that golf course. And I'll never forget, I had 13 birdies in 2 rounds, and one hole I played 7 over par. So do the math on that. One hole, 7 over par. How about that? That still stings a little bit making that statement, but it's the truth.
They're great lessons. No matter how well you're doing and piling up all your wins as you go through life, one really bad day where you make some bad decisions and bad executions can really give a lot of that back, just like that.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true. And, you know, just and being a fan of Tiger growing up, and you know, talk about never quitting. Like, look at what he did at Augusta, right? You make a 10, people would mail it in after that experience. What did he do? He played the next 6 holes 500, right? I think it was 500, maybe 400. But
No, yeah, you had it right. It was 6 holes, 500.
okay, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. At Augusta. By the way,
Right.
I was thinking about that as it was happening, because even a guy like Tiger in a place like that might have chosen to mail it in, but he had to stay to give the green jacket to the winner.
Right,
And then
right.
what are you going to do? Are you going to go play your ass off, or are you going to quit? You have to finish anyway. You have to stay there.
Yeah.
Um,
So what you mentioned, I know we're coming up on time, but you mentioned about your dad with putting, and I'm going to share a Sam Snead story with you. I was very fortunate in college to have been around him, watch him practice, learn from him. A lot of my coaching now was actually methodologies that he brought to the forefront for me personally.
mhm.
And one of the things that he described in respect to getting good at golf, like he said, if you want to get good at golf, you need to master 3 clubs. If you master the driver, the wedge, and the putter, you're going to do pretty darn good at this game.
Mm-hmm.
Broke it into a numbers perspective. He said, you play around a golf on a regulation golf course. How many times can you hit driver? Well, you can hit driver 14 times, unless it's some quirky dogleg par 4 or whatever, right? Okay. If you 2-putt every green, you've got 36 putts. Okay. So you have 50 shots in essence with 2 clubs. Now, building on that, if you miss a par 3 in regulation, what club do you normally use for your second shot? Or a little greenside shot, right? So there's an additional 4. If you miss a par 5 in regulation, what are you normally using on your next shot? A wedge. So now you have 58 with 3 clubs in essence. I get it. There's a bunch of different wedges, but the net of it was, if you want to go out there and 3-putt, hey guys, go have 3 3-putts today. Well, your 36 number just goes, starts to go on the rise. But instead of having 36 putts, what if you had 30? What if you had 27, right? Or 32? And as good as Tiger is, or any of the tour players in the world, doesn't matter what tour they're playing on, they don't get to skip holes.
Right.
You can't take one of those you can't like grab a 14, make it 13. Like, hey guys, I'm gonna skip 17 today.
Right.
I'm gonna shoot 69 by skipping 17. Like,
Right.
play all the holes, man. Right. So the moral of the story of and I love sharing that Sam story just because it was real. Like, driver, wedge, putter, right? The numbers don't lie. One of the reasons why I bought my own TrackMan a few years ago is that numbers really don't lie when it comes to the
Well,
science.
that was the cool thing for me, because I am one of the few amateurs that I've practiced putting for a long time. I just enjoy it. It's a good way to shut my mind off, and I know that it's a feel thing. And I went to Pepperdine, so I was fortunate to be able to practice wedge and putter all day for free, which you can't do anymore, even if you're an alumni or a student. It's only for the golf team now. But then anybody could if you were a student or an alumnus. But when we put the TrackMan on my putter, when I went to your event,
Yeah.
you're like, and of course I happened to make the first 20-footer, and all the speed and the numbers were like, you're like, that's perfect. I was like, okay, I felt like I was a good putter, but I never had that statistical data to back it up. And of course, I don't make that same putting stroke every time. No one does. But to know that that's the one that works, don't change it. Don't change your grip. Don't change your putter. Just do that. And then the other thing that I started to allude to that just blows my mind is, okay, even if you putt great, or you make some great chip shots to save putts, and you only have 30 putts around, but you're not a very good golfer and you shoot 100, that's still 30% of your shots, and you never practice it. Why? It literally doesn't make mathematical sense. But most amateurs do not practice putting until right before their round, just to get a little feel. but they don't spend it out. I even tell a story in the book. I was working with this kid, young golfer who wanted to become a touring pro. He was doing some small level Florida stuff. And we're talking about the mental side of the game. And I just happened to ask him, like, hey, Tommy, by chance, when's the last time you hit 500 putts in a day? He was like, what? Never. I was like, how many putts a day do you think Tiger Woods hits? Or Max Homa? Or pick any pro, right? Hundreds every day, thousands a week. And you think that you're so good that you're just going to show up and you're going to be able to work your way up to beat those guys, and you're not doing that? Like, it doesn't happen.
Well, I 1000% agree. The caveat that I will throw in there is number of reps effectively putting and routine, like on-course routine putting, is way different than dropping 500 putts in the span of 3.5 hours and rolling some putts, right?
Sure.
So what and this is any person that I've ever worked with or who comes to see me to see if, I'm going to help them, see what they do on course, how you line up your putt, how much time it takes you to survey the slope, where are you walking, timing them, right? And I actually ask the players, once they execute the movement on typically it's a 20-foot putt, how much time it took them to go through that entire process from pulling the coin away from the ball, putting it in their pocket, sitting right, walking around, how much time. And very rarely will someone be within 15 seconds of their time. It's either super quick, like, hey, that was 11 seconds. No, it was 42. Oh, that was 30 seconds. No, it was 108. Like, you're like way different spectrum of.
That's a great point. I went from a naturally okay putter because I had put in a lot of reps at Pepperdine and everywhere else to becoming a very good putter when my brother-in-law hammered that over my head. What is your putting routine? How do you create something that you do every single time so that you have a repeatable thing, that you know what you're doing and you're not getting distracted by your thoughts or emotions or feelings? You're just being more precise about it. And that did change a lot for me. And I'll also say too that a lot of people, when I say that about hundreds of putts, and you're right, putting on the course is very different, they talk about muscle memory. I don't think muscle memory is that important with something like that. Not that it's not important at all. The mental memory is what's important. I saw 70% of my 6-footers go in the other day when I hit 200 of them. Well, I know that I've got a 70% chance of making this putt because it's the same putt. So I think that it's creating the memory bank of success, which, the other side of that is I got a case of the shanks with my wedges this summer. And it took me months to get out of it because I couldn't remove those bad memories that kept coming back, like, oh no, what if I do that again? And then it literally played with gore in the middle of that. And luckily that day I only shanked one wedge and I chipped and putted very well. So it was a good day. But also, to go back to what you said, to like stand next to that guy when he hits a golf ball. Same with you, but there's guys like Gore and Tiger that are just different. When they hit it, it's just incredible. But to remove, how do you replace those bad memories with good memories and start rebuilding over again? And it's not muscle memory, it's mental memory.
Mental memory, I like that. I'm gonna put that one up my sleeve for one of my
do. It's remembering that you
upcoming
can
session.
do this, that you can execute it. That's important. That's very important on or off the golf course. Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, we've done a little bit over an hour now, but I never mind going on. This has been a great conversation. I'm so glad that we finally do this, but I want to give you a chance to promote anything that you want to promote about your upcoming events, goldsteingolf.com, at goldsteingolf, any of that stuff, but also to say any last words about the mental side of the game that you want to throw in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Oddly enough, in quarantine, right around my birthday, when everything was shut down, shelter in place in California, and Karen and I were in the midst of, now what, right? My world shut off.
Yeah.
Closed down March 23rd. And all of our events, I think I may have shared the story with you, but our nonprofit corporate golf events, typically we do 50 or 55 events every year with our TrackMan experience. And in the span of less than a month, that turned into 2. So my, pretty gnarly haircut from an income standpoint, we got to reinvent things. Plus I couldn't do private instruction. So the rug got pulled out, and Karen and I decided, why don't we start our own event company? And the word event in the golf world is a big black eye right now, and it has been, right? You can't have gatherings, etc., single rider golf carts, whatever it is. So we came up with the idea of creating Around the Box Events, which is our new brand. And that is something that we actually have our biggest event. We'll call it a collaboration. We'll take out the word event. Funny that Around the Box Events is in my website address. But our golf collaboration at Rams Hill is coming up on December 9th and 10th. It's our first overnight experience where we're actually having a TEDx speaker come out to speak to some of the golfers who are attending. A little future nugget for you. I'd like to talk about having you as a speaker. #1 book on Amazon, please come out and speak. Let's get it done.
No, I'm in. All you have to do is ask.
Yeah. So the Rams Hill experience will be a little unique. We're only allowing 64 players to participate because Rams Hill has 64 golf carts. So that's their deal.
Right.
You can do a collaboration out here, but you can only have 64 players because they have single rider use. So the model that Karen and I created is we want to help people in the business world, like the people that are struggling with face-to-face sales, or entrepreneurs that having trouble getting the word out about their business. So bringing in, networking for business professionals during a round of golf, during some, time outside on a patio, socially spaced properly, right? All the abidance and guidelines and everything. So we've got that event coming up. Goldstein Golf is not disappearing. I can share with you that. We're still going to maintain that brand moving forward. Everyone likes my logo for some reason, other than Trevino. Trevino says it's the snake charmer. So that's Coach Trevino for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Goldstein Golf, aroundtheboxevents.com is our main website now.
Okay.
And you mentioned about your dad. So a little plug with one of the event partners that we work with. A few months back, we did a Shamble collaboration at Country Club Ranch Bernardo, which is my property. And in prize were the Perfect Practice putting mats. Have you heard of that company?
Yeah.
Practice. Okay. The indoor putting mat. Huge fan. Like, I think it's an amazing product. And by the way, Dustin Johnson's on the box. So I know he uses it.
Yeah. It may have helped him.
Maybe your dad should get the Perfect Practice putting mat.
Yeah.
But we're very fortunate. We're actually integrating some of their products as prizes at our events. So people can order those products through our platform. And yeah, I mean,
I know
I
how
don't think that's a shameless plug, but
yeah, no, that's what this part is for. So I always do these podcasts. Look, let's just talk about life and golf and hear what you're about. Then once people know who you are, then plug stuff. You don't want to just come out plugging because they don't know whatever. So I think that's great. Also, we will talk offline. I've got a friend who invented another putting mat. He's a data guy. He's a guy, and he's got a lot of data in his new putting thing that's all data driven. And I know you're a big data guy, so probably get you one of those beta versions of that for you to give them some feedback. And also, I want to shamelessly plug another group that you're involved with, Enveed CBD, ENVEE. A lot of people don't know that when Tiger won the Masters last year, he was chewing CBD gum. And CBD is a really good thing to stay calm. In fact, I had this conversation on one of those golf groups recently, like how do you stay calm on the golf course. And I talked about breathing, and of course, other guys are talking about drinking and smoking weed. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you could do that. But really, maybe you should try CBD,
Right.
because that's not going to get you high and will help you relax. So
Right.
whether that brand or any other brand, highly recommend for golfers that's a good way to stay relaxed.
Definitely. I appreciate you bringing that up. The owner of the company has been my client for, gosh, 10 years now. And Patrick, he and his team are amazing with their product line. I was very selective on who I would bring into the fold because I get asked all the time. It's like, hey, coach, like there's 1,100 CBD products out there.
Now there are
that many. Holy smoke. So the biggest thing for me in working with Patrick was seed to sale. That's the phrase that, like farm to table, it's seed to sale. So Patrick and his team actually, source their own hemp. By the way, there's no THC in it. And I had to get that approved through my cardiologist because I can't have, in addition to being sober, I can't have any THC. And if I do, it causes inflammation in the heart, and that sets things, haywire. So I'm not going to risk that. I've been using the roll-on product for a little over 2 years, and then they just introduced a new CBD patch. I don't have one anywhere, but it's the size of like a smoking patch, and whatever area that's inflamed, you put the CBD patch on, and I think it lasts up to 96 hours. I can't keep them in stock. My clients are messaging me, hey coach, like I need another roll on, my knee is jacked up, or hey, I just tried to play basketball on Saturday, my hip is flared, can I get some of the roll on or the CBD patch? So the whole seed to sale process for me was one of the reasons why I'm fully supportive of the Enveed brand, and they're one of our event partners. So all of the events that we'll do in 2021, they'll be part of the goodie bag and all those details. So I'm a big fan. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, my pleasure. I met Patrick, and I know you've been very passionate about it. It's one of the things I'm passionate about, not specifically that brand, but just growing the awareness of CBD and the value of it. I have two aunts in their 70s who are very, they don't party, they're not partiers, they're now taking CBD for anxiety and to help them sleep. And this is something that can help anybody, whether you're playing golf or doing living life. There's natural ways to stay calm that don't have poison in them, like alcohol.
I got to share one story though,
Sure.
relating to the CBD thing. Well, actually, sorry, not relating to the CBD, but first tee jitters, right? Or anxiety. So I think I told you the story when we were in Boston. I was coaching a client, CTO for a medical device company, and he was a new client. This is years ago, and he informed me. He said, "Hey, coach, I'm getting invited to play the Bridges, to go, which the Bridges is one of the most prestigious courses in Ranch Santa Fe area, a beautiful property." And I'm playing with 3 other individuals, one of which is looking to invest $1 million in my company. I'm like, go out there and crush it. Yeah. And he says, I want you to caddy for me. And I had this look on my face, like I didn't know I had a 5th wrinkle up here. I was what? You want me to what? He's like, yeah, coach, whatever you want me to pay you, I'll pay you to come out and caddy. He's like, bro, I'm not going to caddy for you. Like, you're going to go out there and you're going to crush it. And he goes, no, you don't understand. I am so nervous that I'm going to break one of the $10,000 windows on those homes up there, because the windows are like, as big buildings. And he said, I played the course before and I hit a house and I don't want to do it again. I was like, dude, don't worry about it. So it was building up, right? So every other day I get a text, coach, really, whatever you want, I'll pay you. Please caddy for me. I said, no, I'm not caddying for you. 2 days before, coach, please, I'm dying here. I said, nope, I'm not. And we were working on his game, right? We were in the meantime. So the evening is upon the round of golf. He sends me a text. He says, all right, I want you to come out. I'll pay you $2,000 for the day. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Meanwhile, I could probably,
Yeah.
it's the principle, right?
Yeah.
Next day, he goes out and plays the round of golf with these three guys. And he has his second best round ever, doesn't lose a golf ball, played the entire golf round with one golf ball on that golf course, was amazing. And he just said, Coach, I want to thank you for preparing me to play this round of golf. And the first tee box, he hit a shot right down the middle of the fairway, and that was it. He said from that moment forward, he just moved ahead, didn't think about any windows or homes or anything like that. So the anxiety that was like in him and building and just like, please, please, please help me. And he's not alone. Like, that's the other thing with a lot of these executives and entrepreneurs. They stand on that tee box and it's like, they're pulling their hair out going, oh my God, like, I don't want to embarrass myself.
I hope he sent you the $2,000 anyway, because you deserve it. And it's a great place to end, because if anybody would question your integrity as a coach, I think this just explains it. I know your financial situation better than most people because we're friends. So I know that for a fact you could have used that money, but you turned it away anyway, because in golf and in life, nobody can do it for us. We have to find it within ourselves to do it. And the fact that you would encourage someone at your own financial detriment to do that, to me, says everything about who you are as a person and what you stand for as a coach.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And it's an honor to be your friend, buddy.
Love you, brother, man. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You got it. I'm going to stop recording, but hang on.
Yeah, for sure.